muscle and rarely batting an eye, trying to emulate a statue. Yeah, pretty self-explanatory, but they tried to be lifeless statues for the amusement and bewilderment of others, usually in entertainment districts. But still, brilliantly uses this underutilized talent and not often thought of practice to its greatest advantage, giving weight to not only the film's title, but to this man's career and more importantly now, his expertise. Having to remain completely still and retain his steadfast composure by drowning out the horrors of the world directly and all around him with a casual monologue, staring blankly as if nothing is wrong in the foreground as zombies attack and devour victims alive in the blurred out but clearing background, with him acting as an inanimate object and the paint covering his body to mask his scent. Zombies, or infected, nearby will tend to ignore him. That is genius. An idea I had never conceived of before watching this film. Being a perceived lifeless statue that most zombies who withhold slight memories of their past would most likely assume the faux monument nothing to prey upon, even when staring it directly in the eye. They wouldn't attack a statue unless they saw it move because of their previous memories as a living person. And we also have a valid reason for these zombies not being able to smell him because of his gold paint. It really works well for overly critical people like me that would question if they would be able to smell him. And I mean, the idea of pretending to be a statue to deceive the undead is a stroke of rotting genius. Considering up until that point, I had only humored and accepted the ideas of either draping yourself in the guts of other zombies like The Walking Dead, or acting like the zombies themselves to hide your identity like Shaun of the Dead. Which brings me to a separate point. If you're thinking the zombies themselves look pretty damn good for a short film, well, there's a fantastic reason for that, and one that made me fangirl a little bit, because the zombie and special effects makeup was led by special effects artist Stuart Conran, who has worked on films you may know like Eden Lake, The Descent, Hellraisers 1 and 2, and my favorite film of all time, Shaun of the Dead. This explains all the awesome gore and fleshed out brutality. Although it does have some splotches of noticeable CGI here and there, it is tolerable. It's still a treat for any zombie fanatic. But with all that being said, I've pretty much laid out the entire synopsis of this film. Not much beyond that, but that's not a bad thing. So you might be thinking to yourself, it can't be much if it's just a guy standing there with zombies walking around, but that's what makes it so endearing. The living statue being stared down eye to eye by a zombie forces him to hold his breath, freeze every muscle, and prevent a single blink of his eyes, or he risks his cover being blown. But luckily, and this is the zombie sins in me talking, but luckily a couple comes out of nowhere screaming. That was perfect timing, and they barely even put up a fight against the horde and get coincidentally eaten alive right next to him, so he has time to breathe, shift around a bit, and let out a golden trickle. Yeah, he pissed his pants, but I would too if I was stuck in that situation. Plus, I mean, it does blend in with the gold paint.
Disgusting!
You would think in the chaos of all of this, a zombie or panicking survivor would have less than casually bumped into our stiff upper-lipped friend here. But zombies seem to honor the golden rule of not touching the art, but that doesn't stop them from getting a little red on him. Zombies are ripping apart a dead body just a few meters away from him, and even throw the dead man's intestines to the wayside. The wayside being the statue guy's shoulder.
Oh, for fuck's sake! I gotta do this.
Causing him to nearly puke in pure disgust as he swallows it down and tries to ignore the fact that another man's innards are now casually resting on his shoulder. Everything is basically a test of his will and mental fortitude to remain still, and he is constantly pushed to his limit. He saw firsthand multiple times what fate lies in store for him if he breaks his immersion, like his fellow street entertainers. The clown, who did not put up too much of a fight except to make himself look like a clown, which hey, he stuck to his routine to the very end. And the street artist, who became his own art in the end, despite it costing him an arm and probably a leg. He does see that a similar entertainer, Wheelbarrow Man, is also fighting the same mental battle as him, having to remain completely still and keep his composure, although he is using every moment to inch his way forward and try to get away from danger while letting out slight whispers to himself. Our golden statuesque protagonist internally voices how the Wheelbarrow Man basically stole his act, but is happy to see him alive.
You audience-splitting, axe-stealing, beautiful bastard!
That is until he gets kind of ahead of himself, and this guy's head ends up in his trademark wheelbarrow, showing a faint glimmer of life before it fully dies. And the coal-colored axe thief isn't able to keep his lunch down. His state of equilibrium shattered as he panics and becomes just another dumb, generic, easily killable victim for the Horde, possibly showing how impatience, being easily disturbed, and giving into anxiousness can make the difference between life and death, and maybe even a little life lesson for everyday non-zombie related scenarios. You'd think he would have learned his lesson by now, but it seems like our golden idol does not stay true to his exercise, and the moment the coast is clear for him, he doesn't sit still for a moment longer and jolts forward with triumphant music. Only to break his ankle on his first giant leap for mankind. His one moment of discordance causes him to scream in pain and draw the attention of the infected that were so close to being drawn away from him. It leads to this sort of chase scene where he uses his cane to hastily limp away from the Horde. You know, it makes me wonder how half a dozen people earlier were so easily cornered and cannibalized by these exact same zombies, and now these zombies can't even catch up to a gold codpiece with a limp. He gets out of sight and hides under a staircase, remaining still and silent as the Horde goes on by. When, again, he feels like he is in the clear, and he starts prematurely celebrating, even letting a short but noticeable yell as he turns around and sees a Horde staring him down, which reminded me heavily of that one hysterical scene in Shaun of the Dead. Each time he broke character, he allowed himself to become vulnerable, and he hysterically paid the price. Although he does try to pretend to be a statue one last time as the herd approaches him, as if they didn't just see him partying down. It ends with them slowly approaching him, with his fate unknown. But it's kinda obvious that all that glitters isn't gold. So the short film was, and still is, a joy to watch. With its distinctive take on the zombie genre, I'm glad it was only a short film, as I could only see it truly working in its brief amount of time. I love it, and I can see why and how it garnered multiple awards, including Best Makeup at the Birmingham Film Festival, Best Zombie Film at the Bloody Horror International Film Festival, and even swept through the 2016 Independent Horror Movie Awards, claiming Best Writing, Gore, Humor, Acting, and Special Effects. Reaching millions of views in its first year on YouTube, it's a noteworthy watch and a breath of fresh air amongst all the generic zombie films and fan films out there. I would know. I made 3 zombie fan films in college, and let's just say they aren't that great.
Be advised that if an infected becomes hostile, the only way to harm them is to shoot them in the head.
If you want to see my old zombie movies in the future, comment below, but yeah. But having done zombie short films in the past gave me a different level of appreciation for Carl Timms' work, and I hope his next project, Off Grid, is just as enjoyable. Well, that about wraps up our first bite-sized review. Did you enjoy my still beating praise? Did I overanalyze too much that you were reminded of 11th grade English class? Do you want to see more content like this? Like and subscribe, and make sure to check out Still. The link to the short film is in the pinned comment and description. Check out my other zombie movie reviews, since my Train to Busan review was taken down and gave my channel a copyright strike. Yeah, I'm having fun dealing with that, let me tell you. If you want to support the channel further, which a view and like is all I really ask for, you can be one of these fine folks here that donated, like a longtime donator, a Patreon patron, a YouTube channel member, or simply donating during my live streams. Thank you to Carl Timms for allowing me to discuss his work. Click the links above to watch Still or my other videos, and don't forget to stay still and stay wow.
Hi, welcome to People Playground. It's not what you think, but somehow it's probably going to be worse. This is a game that's a lot like Interactive Buddy, which is sad to mention because Flash has now been officially discontinued. That doesn't mean that you can't still play some of those games, but Flash is kind of being purged from the internet, so a lot of the old Flash games are kind of going by the wayside. But some of them are coming to Steam in bundles, and the developers are actually kind of getting paid, which is good. I don't know why I'm getting all mopey about it. Jeez, I didn't mean to bring the mood down. I'm here to kill people. Anyway, what this? Okay, so People Playground is a lot like that. Okay. E or Q to spawn selected object. Left mouse to drag. Why are things just horror games? Came here to destroy people. Oh my god. Oh, no, no. What is this? Every damn good time. Box select us. Press right mouse and select delete. Okay. Delete. Oh, there was one more box that I didn't read. I did not think that through. Okay. E. Hey. How you doing, pal? Good to see ya. You really want to stand up straight, don't you? Not another person. You're taller! How fucking dare you? Doors. Relatively small, awful creatures. Horses are intelligent and merciful. They also tend to smell fur. Let me just spawn it in. Oh! You okay? Oh! Oh!
Get that stuff home as quickly as you can! It will be of great use to us! There's still some left. Oopsie daisy. Oh. Nothing beats well-muscled man meat when you're dieting.
Hey you! What kind of meat makes a creepy crunch like that?
Human. Down to the bone.
How interesting. I didn't think ape fingers kept monsters around. This'll be fun.
Actually, can we pretend like we never saw each other? I'm in a hurry.
No can do. I'm one of the top adventurers in the kingdom. I can't catch a man-eating monster in the act and let it go. Sorry, creepy.
This is so much trouble. Still, you're strong. Maybe I'll preserve you for a midnight snack.
Come on! I'm getting bored here!
Oh, you're quick with that hammer. Whoosh, whoosh.
I'll crush you!
You dare to soil the uniform my creator gave me? I will end you.
What was that?
Hard armor bug. I'm an intelmancer, see? I summon all kinds of fun little insects, like this one. Ladybug. And then I put them to work for me. I'll kill you now. I really didn't want to, just so you know. But you're in my way.
Finally taking this seriously! Good! Bring it on!
Face her, skeletal dragons! Gamma. Show them the power of Nazarick.
As you wish, my lord. I will no longer fight you as Nabe. Now you face Narble Gamma of the Pleiades. Teleportation. Now fly.
She vanished. Where did she go? She's even able to cast flying magic. But still, she didn't have time to dodge their attack. What's she doing? This is a perfect chance to escape. Why isn't she running for her life? She can't possibly think she has a chance of overcoming complete magical resistance.
There are plenty of ways that I can defeat your dragons. I'll show you. Rejoice, human. You have the honor of facing a servant to the absolute ruler of the great tomb of Nazarick, the supreme being and rightful overlord of this world, Lord Ainz Ul Dor. You are fortunate. As a member of the Pleiades battle maids, I will be your opponent.
Unmade. Skeletal dragons. She's gone.
I'm angry with you.
I'm angry with you too.
Let's give each other some space.
Good idea.
Is this a joke?
When Hell of a Boss's pilot episode came out just over a year ago, I admit I was not very impressed. I thought the structure was especially strange, and I didn't find the characters at all very endearing. It seemed like a lot of the jokes were vulgar material that didn't really have much of a meaning behind it. Kind of like a less structured Billy and Mandy. What is the equivalent of adult party cartoon to Ren and Stimpy? Anyway, having now seen the 2 episodes that have come out of Hell of a Boss proper, I can now say that there's a lot more potential to this show than I initially thought. I'm Gus Zagarella, one of the writers for Less is Morgue, and I'm joined by Henry, who also works on the show. And today, we are going to tell you why Hell of a Boss is a really good show that I was wrong about. Well, I care a lot about demons and their emotions. Do you care a lot about demons and their emotions, Henry?
After that, I fucking do. Holy shit, like,
Oh,
Hell of a Boss episode 2 is phenomenal.
it's a hell of an episode, you might say.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. As Gus's little intro alluded to, like, this episode basically exceeded our wildest expectations. It's a Stolas episode.
I care about Stolas now. Like, I was under the impression that Stolas was going to be this sort of recurring comedic sex pest, and that was going to be his role, but he's got a beating heart and a family!
It goes without saying, obviously, it looks spectacular. The animation is god tier. This looks better than any piece of adult television comedy animation put out in the US ever.
Honestly, like, the big intro song in space, I feel like that was designed specifically to, like, get me on board, because, like, I am a sucker for, like, powerful beings singing to, like, smaller beings they care for in space. I am like, that would be one of my biases. That would be like, write this into the story. A story is improved every single time when you have a powerful being that sings to a smaller being in space.
Absolutely. And now that we've got that kind of preliminary deck suck, the well-deserved deck suck.
Give Stolas their